This is At Risk Radio.
Welcome to At Risk Radio. At Risk Radio is a show where we talk about leadership in the church at risk. My name is Mark Stafford, and I'm the host of the show. I'm here with David Witt. David Witt is the CEO of SOM International and the author of the new book, God's Global Grace Movement, Hope Rising from an Awakening in India. Also joining us is Pastor Singh. Pastor Singh is joining us from India, so you might hear a difference in sound quality today. Pastor Singh is the director of SOM India, and he leads a network of church planners that has tens of thousands of churches and disciples over 1 million people. David, news just came in yesterday that fanatics entered into villages where you have house churches. Tell me about the breaking news coming out of India right now.
Yeah, so Pastor Singh, I'm so blessed by just his leadership. He sent me some pictures and the news about how a church planter was, and the believers were all beaten. On the back of his head is a gash and blood coming down. It was very disturbing, and yet at the same time, the faith that's coming out of it and the unity and the love. And so I'm so honored to have Pastor Singh. Pastor Singh, tell us what's going on right now in India and with the situation.
Yeah, it's quite intensifying, and the level of persecution is increasing, and the forms of persecutions is expressed in many ways, from discrimination to being tortured and attempt to murder and beaten up with rods and lathis and chased out, and it's a very violent violent situations.
And tell us then more, though. And specifically, it was a few villages, right, that were attacked by the militants, did you tell us? I think it was that attacked. And what's the threat of the Christians? I mean, why do these militants, I mean, who are they? Why did they attack?
These militants are called communist guerrilla militants. Like, they actually protest against the government, since they are Hindus. Militants are Hindus, so and the government is Hindu, so it's strange they back up each other right now, because they back up each other. So there is a strong persecutions and attack on the tribal believers because of their faith in Christ.
Okay, so communist, militant Hindu guerrillas are coming in and persecuting Christians. Why are Christians such a threat to this group?
The main key reason is the lives of the tribals are transforming. They are becoming Christians. They're giving their life to Jesus. And for over many decades, they were powerless and they were voiceless. They suffered in all aspects of their life. But gospel has empowered them. The gospel helping them to live a life that is satisfied and content and full of joy, which they never experienced in their lives. So if these peoples are becoming Christians, then the government will lose their vote banks, because their votes will not go. And the government will not able to continue to rule as a Hindu party. So they're scared. And the other thing is, like, in the tribal region, there are the jungles as natural resources. They want to make use of all those things and become more wealthy. So gospel becomes a stumbling block for them.
Yeah, my understanding is that it's not a small number of people coming to know Christ, that we're talking about thousands of people coming to know Christ. And I can see that could be perceived as a threat to those who are Hindus who have been in power for a long time. Am I understanding that situation properly then?
Oh, yes. The number of follower of Christ increasing in a very large numbers. So they get it's a threat.
I appreciate Pastor Singh bringing up the context here, because I think Americans and those in the West have a hard time understanding the conflict. And, here are Indians finding more freedom, their joy. You've even shared, we can get into those stories, even being healed of diseases at times, and yet the society turned against them. And yet you point out the contamination or corruption of the flesh, how it really comes down to power and money. It doesn't matter how blessed the people are, it threatens the power controllers. And that's what has brought the persecution.
Yeah, we see that persecution is spreading like never before. And when we get back, we'll talk about these motivating factors that keeps people on track with the gospel despite this increasing persecution. We'll be right back.
At Risk Radio.
Can you imagine trying to disciple a church with only one Bible? This is Mark Stafford from At Risk Radio, and our contacts in Venezuela are telling us incredible stories about people coming to know Jesus, all the while pastors are missing Bibles for their people. After receiving a Bible from our ministry, one man said with tears in his eyes, "No one has ever given me such a beautiful gift." At Risk Radio, in our partnership with SOM International, is working to bring 2 million Bibles into Venezuela. For more information about how you can help, go to atriskradio.com. Welcome back to At Risk Radio. I'm online with David Witt. David Witt is the CEO of SOM International. I'm also online from India with Pastor Singh. Pastor Singh is the director of SOM India. He was just sharing with us before the break that the level of persecution is intensifying. Christians are being beaten. There's violent situations. They're being chased out. There's threats with a political party there in India. And David, we have seen a question come up with people who support SOM many times. They ask this question: how do you know when to stay? And how do you know when to go? How do you know when to stay and fight for the gospel and to say, you know what, heaven is my home. If they kill me, I get to see Jesus sooner? Or how do you know when you flee for your life to live to spread the gospel another day?
I'm so glad we have Pastor Singh addressing this, because he's living this out. And, this has been an animated conversation with just Afghanistan. When the secret believers there was a big discussion among missions. What's the right thing? What's the biblical thing do you flee the persecution or do you persevere under it? And, and we've seen examples of both. So Pastor Singh, address it in India. How are you as a network of believers dealing with that issue? Should the believers flee? Should they stay? Or is it a little bit of both? So talk to us about that.
In some villages, they are not at all, allowed to hang on or stay, because they don't own the place. This belongs to the government. They are chased out. There are other peoples who are much targeted, and they could be killed on the spot. They kind of pray to the Lord, and the Lord speaks to them, gives them wisdom in the right time. I have some work with you. So there are also people, they say like, this is the village where Jesus has sent me, and I know, and he has sent me. So this is where I'm going to live. And the rest of the days of my life until I see Jesus.
Pastor Singh, I want you to talk about this latest incident where these Hindu fanatics entered into many villages where you have some house churches. Christian families were chased out. Worship services were stopped. And as many of these were villages where you had very successful ministries and that had come to an end. Tell us about this latest situation just came out this last week.
Most of the believers' villages are in house arrest. They're not able to come out of their house, and some families are already displaced from that place to move they are scattered into different places. nobody knows from that village where they are. So our network has been aggressive and with fearless love and God's strength, just speaking to those lives and encouraging them to continue to stand. And many church planters and believers are beaten up badly and beaten on their heads by rods and laddies. One guy, you might have seen in one of the pictures, that he was bleeding all over his neck. All over his neck, he was bleeding, and he was just quite serious. Just, it's miraculous how the Holy Spirit is leading and guiding these peoples.
The reality is that persecution is spreading like never before.
The leadership truly feel much strength and honored to encounter situations like these where there is a greatest impact and influence for Christ we have thus far. The fanatics and the guerrillas try to cause fearful situations. They are into fear that they will lose their religions. They will be put an end to the idol worship. So that's why they're scared of. They're trying to protect and preserve. But whereas our people are bold enough and just move one day at a time,
The reality of it is believers have lost their homes just in the last few days. Some are in the hospital right now. We haven't been able to go in those details. And for security reasons, we don't talk about all the details. And they're suffering. And yet they're finding faith, as we're seeing. We hear that joy on Pastor Singh today. We want people to be impacted by that. But I want to encourage the listening audience as go away is you can start praying for our family in India. Pray for that continual provision, encouragement, unity in the spirit, and a way to continue to bless their enemies. So the best way to stop the persecution is to change the heart of our persecutors. And we're going to talk more about that in a future podcast. But Mark, I want to turn it over to you as we have to conclude today, unfortunately.
Pastor Singh, I love what you said, that you feel honored to suffer for Jesus. And what a challenge that is for us. At Risk Radio invites you to get involved with those who risk much for Jesus. You can get involved by subscribing to our newsletter. Our full color newsletter comes out every month and features stories from those who are serving on the front lines in the most restricted areas. Many of those are in India. You want to sign up for that at atriskradio.com. You can also help this podcast by subscribing to it or sharing it with a friend. If you have questions for us or you have questions for Pastor Singh, we'd love to answer those on the program. You can email those to us. Again, go to atriskradio.com and there's an email address there. Lastly, SOM International and At Risk Radio, as well as this church planting network in India, is all supported by you. We're supported as you sign up to be a monthly donor or as you donate in exchange for books in our bookstore. You can visit the SOM bookstore at spiritofmartyrdom.com. Until next time, my name is Mark Stafford, and this has been At Risk Radio.
You've been listening to At Risk Radio. For more, go to atriskradio.com. At Risk Radio is a production of SOM International.